Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I'm being joined with David and crew. And Beth locked her crew out, and
Did they're noisy.
Jenny, and I have my crew. We all have our furry crew. And I'm using the word crew on purpose because today's topic is learning from Artemis on how they found their crew. And we're like, okay, this is pretty cool. So here we go. We're going to dive into it. And also, we're going to celebrate Jenny as having a standing desk. I've always had a standing desk, but now you may see Jenny. She may be on the
She's
move,
just moving all
literally
around,
a little
moving and
bit
grooving over
more,
there.
right?
I thought about getting one of those walking pads that you can
Yeah.
put under your desk. Then one day you'll just be like, Jenny, and I'll just be taking a stroll. So that's next on my list. First, I just got to get used to the
I
whole
only
new
want to have a
setup.
meeting with you if you're running on it while
Yeah.
we're meeting. I want you to
That's
be
all.
running.
First of all, I don't run. Something better be chasing me for me to run. Those days are long gone. So yeah,
Fair
no,
enough.
thank you. But anyways, sorry, off on topic already.
Yeah.
It didn't take
So
very long.
so
What,
this
30
came up
seconds? Yeah.
because we were talking about finding your crew and us all being a little geeky, a little heady, and all the variations, and that the veterinary practice, you got the ties that bind, which is the pets, the pet health, and practicing medicine, even though you have a very divergent group of individuals, they come together with that common passion and creating not just a team, but Jenny, you said it, and I think I'm going to have to adopt that now. It's a crew.
I'm one of those people that I have always used the word family. And I understand that that can be seen as toxic. There are people who are like, oh, if your owners say it's a family, they're probably going to take advantage of you. Or people who grew up in toxic families don't have the same view of a family that I do. I've got like 26 first cousins or something, and we, keep in touch
That's a
and
lot.
listen, it is. There's so many of them. And it's one of those things that so family to me means something completely different than family to other people. And so I think we're always looking for that cool word to use to, you know, conjoin this, like you said, divergent group that are all working towards the same thing. And so I've always said family or team. I say it when I speak. I very, very, very rarely say employee or staff because I just
No,
think it's like,
I
it's
find those
just,
words to have a negative
I do
connotation,
too.
personally.
yeah,
And
I
it puts
don't
a
like it.
separation and a distance
It does. And
between
then
people.
And then
Yeah.
I'm not a part of the team because
Yeah.
then if they're my employees or they're
Right. Good
my
point.
staff, as opposed to us being a team, I try and say I work with these people. They don't work for me.
Yeah.
We all work together. I mean, God knows some days I'm handling more poop and urine than anybody else. And okay, but I saw this thing about the crew of the Artemis and what is a crew. And Christina Coach, I think is how you say her name. Anyways, she talked about the fact that before she went up into space, she was asked, like, what's a crew? And she said, prior to this trip, everything that came out of my mouth was useless. It was not valid. It was not, I didn't know until
Yeah.
afterwards what a true crew was. And it was the sacrifices that they make with for each other, the fact that they're all in it 100% all the time. And when I heard that, I was like, this is my team. So at my team meeting last week, I played that like 4-minute clip from Christina explaining what a crew was. And Beth, you brought it up too about like how they had to, how cool it was that they had to work together so
Yeah.
closely.
Yeah. I just found the whole trip and all of them very inspiring. And I was saying before we started recording, like, I feel like the world kind of needed a win. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
negativity and there's a lot of crap happening in all of our lives and in the world and in our country that a lot of people are struggling with. So to see something so positive from four extremely genuine people that are
Yeah.
in this situation because they're passionate about exploring the universe and making the world a better place and advancing technology. And they're not in it for the glory. They're not in it to be famous. They're like nerds. They're geeky science nerds who have inspired the world because they are so passionate and they just went around the moon and did this amazing, amazing thing. And when you watch interviews of them, they're like the most humble
They're
people.
real. Yeah.
Yeah.
That very real, very genuine, very humble. And all they talk about is all the other people that helped to get them where they are and each other. Like none of them are like, we succeeded because I'm amazing.
Right.
Like
It's all
that's
about
just like,
me.
right.
Yeah.
Then none of them are like that. Like if you watch any of their interviews or read about them at all, like they're all very genuine, humble people that are like doing the right thing for the right reason. So I feel
Yeah.
like that is what has made them so inspiring. And I feel like that's sort of what we all are looking for in our lives, right? To be surrounded by like-minded people who are rowing in the same direction as you on the boat, that you are on the same crew, all working together for a common goal. It's just theirs is a much bigger, glamorous, high stakes situation, whereas a lot of times ours is like, you know, lower stakes, but not less important. And I feel
Right.
like that's where like life satisfaction, job satisfaction, all of that comes from being on a team or a crew where you feel like you're all like-minded and rowing in the same direction.
Well, and you're working in just as close a space. I mean, the
Hmm.
exam room, the surgery suite, you're body to body next to everyone, having to coordinate, work together, communicate. The analogies or parallels are huge, and I love the whole idea of being a crew. And you've got today we're the exam room crew, tomorrow we're the dental crew, and the crews might change. But that common mission, you have crews within crews, but it's all no different than because I geeked out on it too. I had the little live stream up in the corner of this monitor all day, every day. I get home, I pull it up at home
Hmm.
just for the interview, for the live action. I love that. But then the interviews of the people back at Command Central. And, oh, my team's the one that worked on the food. My crew's the one that worked on the exterior and just how many people were involved. And it's like within your veterinary practices, when everything's firing and everybody's contributing, it's pretty powerful what gets done. The benefit of having a common mission, no pun intended, in Artemis, but still, uh, that's huge.
Hmm.
Don't you think we're wired to work as a team or a crew? And
Yes.
though a lot of what we see
Good question.
out there, like in movies or books or whatever, the one hero saves the day. But in reality, don't we all do better working together? I mean, the lift's not so heavy. Many hands make light work, for example. We're mentally happier typically because we're not, just struggling to lift a mountain with a shovel all by ourselves. Like, you look at the Amish, for example, they can build a barn in a day, like, or they can move a barn without any heavy equipment, and they work as a group. Like, they've got the group thing down, they've got the crew thing down, right?
I think we are hardwired. I mean, we're social creatures, right? Like we know
Right.
this. We're not made to be alone. I do think that some of the issues that we run into is that our society is so divisive, to what Beth was saying. It's very negative and, there's so much of the us and them mentality. And so I think it almost can be a booby trap for crews, for teams that, you do kind of go, well, wait, I have to be the leader, to what we were saying, there are so many different aspects of this moon launch that were so many different people that people who probably will never even have the opportunity to interview,
Right.
people who will never, we won't even know all of the computer engineers behind all of the, computer programs, the all of it. And so I think though that this is a problem in some we'll talk about veterinary practices. Some veterinary practices that this is the issue with not delegating because it's this idea of job security, right? If I'm the only person who knows how to do this, then I still have a job. And that we are, I think, not hardwired, but I think there's so many messages out there that tell us to live in scarcity, to tell us to live in
Yes.
fear of not having enough. And so therefore I have to be the leader and I have to be that singular hero. And yes, I have a team, but they wouldn't be able to do what they do without me. That's not my thought process. I love being able to go on vacation and nobody calls me
Right.
unless all hell legitimately breaks loose. I mean, the servers go down, we have no computers, like
The
they,
building's on fire.
right, right, right. Someone is in the hospital, you're like, but for the most part, when I leave, I leave. I leave. I know that I have empowered my crew to be able to take care of things when I'm gone. And I
Mhm.
think that mentality of hierarchy, and having this no, I am the leader and you can't do anything without my permission. That's when people don't have autonomy over their jobs and they're not happy and they leave. And so when you look at the Artemis and all of the hands that it took, not just those four, and Beth, you're 100% right that they're never out there going like, yeah, I'm going to pat myself on the back because, I'm the badass that went into outer space. No, they give all the credit where credit is due and barely take any to themselves. Even though I was so funny when I showed this video on last Thursday, my team was like, not only I said these four people were stuck in this like what 10-foot square feet, like it
Yeah,
was
it's
just
pretty
this
small.
tiny, tiny little
Yeah.
space. And then somebody goes, yeah, and the toilet didn't work. And I'm like, that's right. They did have so, I mean, imagine who don't you want to be surrounded by people who everybody has something to achieve, or I mean, we can achieve it together, but everybody has something to give and something they know something that you don't. Wouldn't you rather have that than have that one person
Yeah.
be the end all be all? I mean, I don't know. It just makes more sense to me.
It does.
It's a
But
narrative shift, though. It's a big one. It's a big narrative shift from earlier in the days to now. And the internet has helped with that. The internet has been a huge equalizer for that conversation because we can go out and get information anytime we want. I can't do a spay or neuter on my dog, or it should not be advised that I do that.
You probably could find a video on YouTube though,
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
but
Like,
don't do it. Don't do
don't
it.
do
Yeah.
it.
don't do
Resist.
that. Don't do that.
No. But other things of my dog just ate chocolate, how much is an acceptable level before I'm running to the emergency room? May or may not have looked that up a few times myself, just saying, right? So, um, but it's the same for the crew. I find, Jenni, like when you said when you leave, you leave. I find when I leave, it's a great time to see where there's holes in our processes or when
Oh,
other
yeah.
crew leaves, because like we have two people going on maternity leave and somebody's going on a major surgery. So we're gonna have people gone, right? And so then you learn like, oops, what didn't we document? What did we miss? Because I believe in redundancy. So every job, everything, somebody else should know how to do the job
Yeah.
because everybody has a life and you need to go live it or life will find you and put you in bed with illness or whatever. It's just you can't count on it, right? But man, those holes, like, and it kind of is funny and everybody's like, so who knows how to do this thing? And everybody looks at each other and we're like, okay, we found a hole,
Yeah.
right? Let's fix the hole.
And
Mhm.
I honestly feel too, because so at my practice right now, in the last couple of months, we've had probably the most turnover we've ever had since
Oh,
we
really?
opened the practice. And it was like a series of unfortunate events. Like I think two people left because they wanted to just pursue an opportunity that was not available at our practice. And one person's having a ton of health issues and someone's out on maternity leave. So like none of it was on bad terms, but it was like, a series of people that kind of left us a little bit like, well, crap, now we need to hire. So we've been hiring and we've had a couple really amazing team members who have now started in the last like 2 weeks. We're onboarding another person tomorrow. We've like hiring like 4 or 5 people to help sort of bridge the gap with losing people. And maybe we're getting a new doctor. So it's like a very exciting time at my practice. But I also feel like it's a really great opportunity to sort of evaluate the people on your crew and like identify, all right, the people who left, were they a good fit? And we weren't living up to our half of that bargain of making sure that they
Right.
feel validated and supported and that they had opportunity. Or is it not a cultural fit? And like they really shouldn't have been on our crew or our team. And for at least one of them, that was absolutely the case. And we were almost like working up to the point where do we need to start having some really hard conversations? And I think if you invest in your team and you invest in your culture and you spend time trying to help keep that at the forefront of what's important to your practice and your team, it does sometimes help some of those people that really shouldn't be on your team see themselves out, I think, in
Yeah.
sometimes. And then when you're hiring, the other point I'm trying to
Yes.
get to is I feel like we lead with cultural fit. And I feel like that to me, over the years, I have just found it matters so much more that they care about the
Yeah.
same things as me than if they know how to place a catheter or if they know how to properly take a history or if they know, a vast array of medical knowledge. Like we can teach almost all of those things, but I can't teach you to genuinely care about animals. I can't teach you to have compassion. I can't instill in you a love of learning unless it's already there. I can help you encourage it. I can fan those flames, but if it's not there, then ultimately that person is never going to be the right fit. So that's the point I want to make to you is when you are choosing members of your crew, you should be extremely selective because that matters so much more than skill.
And you could see that, I think, in the Artemis crew, because the panel of astronauts from which they had to choose, but they needed to collect individuals that could come together and be the crew and work together. And like you said, the redundancy. How many times did they practice everything they did while they were going around the moon? They practiced on Earth in minutia. I remember them talking about practicing looking out the window, trying to identify color shifts and changes, and the astronauts really expressing the appreciation back to the team of moonologists
Mm.
who,
Oh, I want to be a
who watched.
I
moonologist.
want to
Yeah,
be a moonologist too.
but then and then the moonologists, what they call it, moon moon love or love moon something, but she interview on the Earth, the head moonologist is talking about all
See
the
better. Yeah.
amateur moonologists across the globe helping interpret and looking at that data and contributing to the people that actually get paid to do that. It's just the scale and scope all coming up and building and supporting these four people, sending all these readings and feedback down to all the people that are helping. The old phrase, it takes a village, I
Yeah.
guess.
Mhm.
It
But
does.
it's so true. In a veterinary practice, though, you have the ability to build your village. Family, yeah, you're born with that, and it may or may not be a good thing. But in your practice, you have the opportunity, nay, the responsibility to build a good team. And I think it was Phil or Beth that said it, and maybe Peter, that, if you're not working on your culture, you still have a culture.
Right. And it may not be what you want it to be,
Yeah.
right? And that's the problem. And I was going to say too to the hiring and letting people go, if you do have someone that absolutely solidifies your culture and all that they do, you need to do whatever you can to keep them. Right. It is our responsibility to turn veterinary medicine from being just a job to being a career with advancement opportunities. And those people that truly live in your values, in your culture, in your mission, do what you need to do to keep them.
Mhm.
It really drives me insane when people go, start talking about money and they're like, well, payroll can't be over a certain percentage. And I'm like, who did, like, it doesn't have to be a specific. If it goes over because you're offering more benefits and you're able to keep your team, the longer they're there, the more they're going to cost you, right? Because they're worth it. So you either have turnover that you're paying for, or you're going to pay for those people who have been with you 10, 15, hopefully 20 years that know and live in what you are working towards and help you work towards it, right? They're the ones that are saying, I want to help you. Hey, I see this problem. How can I come up with a solution instead of just coming to you and whining every day?
Yes. And
And
I
I
knew
knew,
he
I
was
knew,
gonna have something to say. I was
I,
like, he's sitting there like, oh, pause your
he's
sentence.
like,
Yeah,
Jenni opened
he
up the
he
door.
already
Yes,
dropped the new word for the day, a moonologist,
yeah,
right?
yes,
Because
okay,
that's our
the
new word for the day.
but the you're
yes,
right. The and I'm a big fan of paying a living wage and helping people advance and CSR level one, level two, level three, tech level one, assistance, etc. And having those protocols in place and matching compensation. But I think you have to, and the financial hack comes on though and says,
yes.
yes, whatever percentage you're hitting, that's fine, as long as you're doing it intentionally, number one. And number two, you're aware of the consequence, which benefit consequence is you've got a stable team, less turnover. Other consequence can be lower profitability, lower value. So it's an awareness on all fronts because, good
Well,
business, good medicine, we need the interconnection of those. And the crew, the team, is right in the middle of all of that.
and I wouldn't say give raises and don't increase, like it has to come from
Right.
someplace, right? So you do have to be very intentional to it. But it just kills me when people are like, oh, you've reached your cap. That's it. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like,
I agree. I
who
have a hard
came up
time with
with
that
that
too.
cap? Right. Like,
I have a hard
And
time with
is it
that too.
applicable to you?
right. Just because somebody's doing that in another state doesn't mean that that's what I need to be doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people get really hung up on the benchmarks and like what a well managed practice, what all of your percentages should be. And they are absolutely important. And I run those numbers because you need data to be able to assess how your practice is doing. But I feel like you also have to understand that they are benchmarks and guidelines and they are not black and white rules. So every practice is going to look a little bit different based upon your priorities. And you just have to recognize that that's a give and
Yeah.
take. Like if your payroll is slightly higher than what's considered a well-managed practice, but you're saving in other areas, that can still be a very healthy practice. You just have to be keeping an eye on that and making sure that that is something that you have that data so you can track it and that it doesn't spiral into a bigger problem. But
Oh, sure. Yeah.
for team satisfaction, be able to pay your people a rate that they can survive life, to be able to keep them on when they are valuable to your team. Those are some of the things that I agree with you, Jenni. Like, I will pay someone more if they are worth it. And then I
Absolutely.
will just find other
Yeah.
ways to make sure that that is fair to the rest of the team and that, it is sustainable because they're worth it to keep them on the
Right.
team.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
The crew. Keep them on
The
the
The crew.
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 The
Yeah,
The
crew.
crew.
we're a crew now,
The
right?
crew.
But
Yes.
it makes such a huge difference, I think, when you're working with people that are rowing in the same direction, that have that same mission, and you like going to work because you're going, I love getting on this podcast with you guys because every now and then we start talking about some super geeky, nerdy, random thing like the Artemis. And I'm like, yes, these are my people, right? Like
Oh,
we talked about Legos. We talked like, I mean, it's just the way
yeah.
that it is. And so when you come to work every day with those people who are handpicked to be a part of this crew, handpicked, and I say that all the time whenever somebody, comes in and is, I don't know, feeling down or something. I'm like, you understand that Simon and I handpicked you to be here.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
that was not a random choice. I didn't just go, oh, you're breathing? Come here and sit at the front desk and answer my phone. I would never, ever, and so you were handpicked to be here. And I hope that you have enough respect for Simon and I that you see that as a good thing. I mean, maybe you don't. Maybe you go, oh, well, who cares? But I think when you put enough work into it and ongoing work, not just, yes, I've hired this amazing person and I'm going to continue to develop you. I'm going to, and what you were saying, Beth, about when they leave, yeah, talk to them. Hey, this is the whole great thing about exit interviews.
Yep.
Did we meet
Yeah.
your needs? Was there something we could have done better? I want to, understand that shit happens sometimes, right? And you have to leave, maybe your spouse gets transferred someplace else, or right, you just realize that vet med isn't for you. Is there anything else we could have done as owners, as managers that would have made this a little bit better? And having those conversations. But if you're not putting the work in every day, every week, every team meeting, and making sure that everybody's going in the same direction, then you don't want your spaceship crashing, right? They landed safely because all of these things work together.
All the
And
protocols worked and the
right.
practice
And
and the
like you, right, it was
consistency.
it
Yep.
was the practice and the communication. I think we all can agree that it's just constant communication.
Yep.
Constant, clear expectations, constant communications, good and bad feedback, and then taking that and helping grow and develop. And if you're not working on it, then yeah, it's not going to go well. You don't you don't want your spaceship to crash.
Have
That's
we,
Well said. It's not
yeah.
like Legos
definitely.
that you can just
Right.
easily build it back
Rebuild
up.
it.
Right, right. I'm
Mhm.
kind of chuckling because we just throw things out for granted. Like, you just need to communicate more. Gosh,
How easy.
Hmm.
communication is so damn hard.
Just turn on the
Like,
switch.
there's so many different meanings for the same word, or there's so many different inflections for the same word, or each generation has their own words that they use to describe something, right? And then so if you're not in the same generation with the same words, then you got to ask whatever generation you're talking to, like, listen, life
That's
has,
so fire.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's cap. That's cap. I swear to God, my 12-year-old
Six,
comes
seven.
home. Yeah. And I'm like, what did you just say? Like, I
Yeah.
can't tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing. We actually got a translation wheel that goes from boomer to Gen X. Yeah. Boomer to Gen X to millennial to Gen Z. And it's what the same word means. And so we got it at Christmas and we would be like, oh, and you'd spin the little dial and it tells you. And my parents are like, oh, it really is a different, but also to your point, Kelly, texting does not, there's so many different ways to interpret it. So it kills me when people are like, oh, I'm going to text that. No, no, no. That is not a texting conversation. That is a face to face. I can see your body language.
Yeah.
I understand the inflection of your voice because that could be taken so many ways.
So many ways,
Yeah.
so many ways, right? And
Um,
we all have kids, and my daughter will say, I'm in a girl mix up, like girl drama. And I'm like, when are you not in girl drama? Okay, you're a girl. That means there's drama. It just comes along, right? And she'll read me the whole message, and it's just like one word from each person after the other. They're having whole conversations on Snapchat usually, and I'm just thinking, how are you even communicating? Like, but they're having this. And then I'm like at the end going, so I just heard everything you said. I hear you. Now tell me what that all means. Because like I could make my own assumptions, but you use a lot of words that I don't commonly use, and you're also pretty pissed. So there has to be something going on here, right? And figure it out and just go talk to people.
there's a skit by Key and Peele, the comedians, that's like about communication that I've played for my team before. And it's like how text message can be really misinterpreted. And it's like two guys planning to meet up. Jenny, you're laughing like you've seen it.
I love this skit
Yeah.
so
I'll
much.
have to
So
look for
it's
this. I don't
Oh my
So
know.
God.
it's
Yeah.
very funny and it's about communication. And so it's like the one guy texts and is like, hey, are we still good for drinks later? And then the other guy, like, essentially is being like nonchalant, but he's coming across via text as like combative and
He's like,
abrasive.
whatever.
Yeah, like whatever. And so it'll show like the guy who's responding. So the first guy's like, hey, we still good for drinks later? And then the second guy's like, whatever, I'm up for whatever you want to do. That's fine. And but he like says it like positive and happy. And then the other guy reads it and he's like, whatever,
Right.
I'm up for whatever you want. That's fine. Okay, do you not want to go? And then the other guy's like, no, I'd go. And he's like, no, I'd go. And then it just like escalates to like the point where they're finally meeting later. And the one guy's showing up like thinking everything's fine. And the other guy's like literally like ready to fight him. He's like, we're gonna fight. And
He's
it's
jumping
just,
around the kitchen. He's like,
yeah,
oh, you
he's
want
like
to
so
go?
mad. You wanna go?
And the
You
other guy's
wanna
like,
go?
I would love to go. Like,
Yes. And it's so it's like such a perfect example of like what you say and what you mean
Yeah.
and how it's interpreted and how the written word, when you eliminate all of those social cues that you get from seeing someone face to face, hearing the inflection, seeing their mannerisms, seeing their facial expressions, like there's so much room for misinterpretation, which it was just we've used it several times with my team and I've played it for them because I'm like, this is just such a beautiful example about why it's like important that you try to interpret the written word differently than you would when someone's standing in front of you, but also just like ask for clarification and why communication is like key to being able to work together because it's so easy to misinterpret stuff and then get like really angry. But it's a very funny skit. It makes me laugh every time I see it.
every
And you
time.
saw that, talk about asking clarifying questions, tying it back into Artemis. Because, like I said, I watched just,
Clearly,
I'm
you
working
like
and kind of watching as I'm
lived and
typing.
breathed
Like,
this mission.
you could see them like they're getting ready to do a burn or some procedure, and NASA HQ would say, okay, we're going to change the protocol to this. And they would say, okay, just to make sure you want,
Mhm.
and they routinely.
Yep.
Just what I heard you say is you want this, correct? And affirmative. And that's huge. I mean, like you
Mhm.
just said, whether it's text or even with a client in the exam room,
Mhm.
you're describing this. You said this.
Mhm.
Is that correct? What I heard you say is that's that reflective, open-ended.
Reflective listening.
Yeah,
That's what I was just going to say,
we're
which
tying
is
it all in.
crucial. It's such a big topic,
It
honestly. Like,
is.
because there's so much that goes into having your crew be what you need it to be to succeed and for everyone to feel validated and successful and satisfied. Like, there's just so much to it. I mean, communication tools is its own podcast. Like,
It is.
it's its own series of
Well, it's been an
podcasts.
underlying theme of
It has
many
been.
of our sessions, right? Just do
Right.
it
Right,
better than
right.
just do it better.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
do
just be
better.
better. Just do
Do
better at
better.
communication.
Do
Duh.
better. It's fine.
Well, I think the interesting thing is too is Beth with that is the funniest skit. And now I'm like, oh, I really should show it. It does have some language, but
It
we're all adults.
definitely has
It
some foul
definitely has
language,
some,
so
yes,
prepare yourselves
yes,
because they do curse in it a little bit,
yes.
but it's very funny.
But each of those two people is coming from a different place, right? So in the exam room, you are talking maybe to a pet owner who does not have the knowledge that you have, right? And or they got it from YouTube or Google or whatever. And you want to be very clear about here's where we're at while also being empathetic. But when you talk about the Artemis and the fact that they were constantly, these are people who are at the same level, right? Have practiced, they understand exactly what they're trying to do and they're still clarifying. So think about how little we clarify when, here are four people on this podcast. We all come from different places, right? Beth's a doctor. I'm a practice manager. Kelly handles all the marketing. David's the finance guy, which is why he shakes his head most of the time when I talk. But, it's all good. But, we all come from four different places within the veterinary space. And so when you think about that and all of the conversations that we have, we don't come even close to doing enough clarification of, do you understand what I want from you? This is exactly what I'm looking for. How can I help you? What tools do you need from me? Whereas here on the Artemis, they all knew exactly what the plan was. They all knew exactly what the steps were, and they still clarified everything. How much better would it be if we said to people, I mean, the doctors might go into the exam room and say, okay, you have an older dog, we've done blood work, kidneys and liver look good, we're going to start you on a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. You want to make sure you give it with food. You want to make sure that you don't give it with any other, NSAIDs or steroids. Well, now you said the word NSAID. What does that even mean? I don't know that that means non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. So you start throwing out these acronyms, then the technician comes in and goes over all the same thing, but instead of saying give it with a meal, they might just say give it with food. Well, does that mean with just a piece of cheese on an empty stomach?
Mhm.
And so it's these little things that now we're confusing, but if we all say the same message over and over and over again, then hopefully the client hears it and understands, and it's better care for the patient. And we've clarified multiple times exactly, but it's that making sure that the message is the same. And if you're on a crew, it should be, because we're all rowing in the same direction. We're all running in the same direction.
Running on our standing
Our
walking pad
standing, yeah.
at our desk
I'm
in
gonna
the
start doing
same
squats.
direction.
I'll just disappear. But no, I think when we talk, yeah, communication is something, and we're not taught how to do it. That's
No,
the
Right.
kicker. We're taught English language, and we're made to read books that I love it. Right now, my son's a sophomore in high school, and he's like, Mom, what would it? He just read Death of a Salesman, and now he's reading Raisin in the Sun, and he's like, these are so stupid. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what that has to do with life, buddy. I'm sorry. Like sometimes you just have to read these books that, you know,
Jump through the hoop.
right. But what they should be teaching is, here's what, standing with your arms crossed means.
yeah,
Hmm.
Here's what direct eye contact means. Here's the point where direct eye contact gets creepy.
yeah.
Right? like, like sometimes some of these kids need to learn this, because I'm like, dude, do you
Yes.
blink? What is happening right
Yeah.
now? But I think that we just were never taught that. Even in college, when we take a speech class,
No.
great, you learn how to write a
Right.
good speech and do it in front of people, but you're never taught how to communicate with your significant other, with your siblings, with your best friend,
No.
and makes it so hard. I can only imagine when those four people are floating around in outer space, the amount of communication, and then you can't even really read body language because they're floating.
Yeah.
Like maybe they can have their arms crossed, but I don't know. Then you bump into. I don't know. That would be fun. We should find an
But
anti-gravity
like
thing.
like scuba diving, I notice many of the times, if you're scuba and you don't not doing something with your hands, you bring them together, and they would frequently do that. If they weren't doing, they'd bring their hands together so you had control. They weren't just floating off, hitting something or pressing a button you didn't intend to press.
Oh,
Whoops, my bad.
right.
Oops, we're
Yeah.
venting all the
And
oxygen.
now everyone's dead.
Right.
And who decided to put that button there anyway? I
Why
mean,
does that
honestly,
button
right?
exist? Anyway, yes, I feel like communication is a whole, maybe we should do one on communication tools. That might be helpful.
Yeah, and
Add it
maybe
to
the,
the
the
list.
tips and things that we find help
Yeah,
us.
for like practical communication amongst
Yeah.
your team. But
Okay, Kelly, add that.
I will.
honestly,
I got a list.
it
I'll
is
put it to
such a
the
big
list.
part of all things communicating, and it is not something we're taught how to do. And either you learn how to do it properly over time through trial and error, or way more frequently, you learn improperly how to
Yeah.
communicate and have coping mechanisms that are not healthy and that don't work that well and that affect all of your relationships. And I feel like that is sadly the norm. That
Yeah.
people don't know how to express their feelings properly. And I think that spirals into affecting your relationships at home, affecting your relationships at work, affecting your satisfaction in life, in
Yeah.
the home and at work. All of that spirals into how you feel as a human on a day-to-day basis. Because if you don't know your own feelings and how to say them, you're never going to feel happy or satisfied or like a proper member of that team or that crew if you can't express yourself properly. It's such an important and very underrated skill.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say that one of the things that I said before we got on here was it's so awesome when you 100% accept who you are and like dig into your weirdness, your nerdiness, whatever, and then you find your crew. And you
Mhm.
find those people who accept you for who you are, and you can accept them and you can geek out on the same stuff, and it does make your life so much more exciting into what you
And
were just
richer.
saying. Yes,
Mhm.
it
Yes.
does. It's just joyful, and you get to be you, and you don't have to pretend to be something for somebody else. So find your crew, but be authentically you, because that's one of the other things that I thought was so cool about the Artemis crew is they're all
Yeah.
four very different people that are one, you said humble, and my whole word has been authentic.
Yeah.
They're real.
Yeah.
Like, and not authentic in like an Instagram way, like really, really
Yeah.
authentic. And that's
Yeah.
And that
huge.
brings it around back to the start. Well done, Jen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny's hitting it
thanks.
with the rap.
It's because I'm standing.
It is.
It's the
Power
mat.
of standing.
But I think we are good there. So we can
Yeah.
end it and say, think about your own crew. Think about finding your crew if you're listening to this and you don't have a crew, right? Because as we keep saying, we are social beings. We do better if we have a crew, mentally, physically, emotionally. Get your crew,
Yep. And
right?
one that you can truly be your authentic self with, and you will be
Yeah.
way happier.
And you might have multiple crews. You've got the Harry Potter geeky crew, you've got the disc golfing crew, you've got the lab rescue crew. We can have overlapping crews.
Right.
Yes,
We do.
Lego crew. We're all about the Lego crew.
that's
Mhm.
right.
Yeah,
Find your
Legos
crew.
are important. Yep. So come like and share and follow us, and we want to hear from you. Until later.